Good job.
Impact. I'd like to see, man.
That was awesome.
Casey, which one of those was your favorite event?
Oh man. I mean, I like the beach cleanup day a lot, and I also like the last one we did at the school, painting.
Yeah.
Even though it's about 180 degrees outside.
I know.
That's such a cool thing to do.
I love the Symmetry Challenge too.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there was shots of the rock to rock in there from the Symmetry Challenge that year, but good Lord, I don't know. My legs are still maybe hurting from that one. So we got a good one, man, lined up today, as you can see with all the names faces yet. But we've got Miss Ashley Tarr on with Jordan Shank and Summer Friesen. And we also have a good agent spotlight for you coming up here in a second. So, Ashley Tarr, unmute, unblackout. Give us a preview of what's to come.
Hey, T.
Yeah, hey guys. Thanks so much for having us on. Really, really grateful for this opportunity always. And I'm really excited for you all to hear, and the rest of Symmetry to hear from Summer Friesen and Jordan Shank today. They've got some awesome information that they've actually been working out in their lives. And I think that's always the most powerful messages, is when we get to share something that we're actually kind of in the throes of wrangling with ourselves. So the topic is going to be on auditing our lives, and we're going to unpack 3 different areas that I think really are I think they're always important, but I think especially with the climate that we have currently, and COVID still hanging around and changing things up in the homes for a lot of people. The reality is our lives can continue to feel chaotic if we allow them to. And so just talking about auditing our time and our schedule, and then our mindset, our thought life, and our emotions, and how just taking some really systematic inventory in those 3 areas can help clear out some of the chaos and bring some clarity, which always empowers and enables us to function, I think, in an otherwise very chaotic environment, still with a whole lot of hope for the future and intention throughout the day, and I think can help bring some order back into our lives in spite of the things that we can't control.
Yes. Sounds
great commercial.
Like that. That was a great commercial. Exactly what
I hope you're recording
right now. I bet we are. I hope we are, at least. All right. We can't wait. We'll get back with you here in just a second. Casey, before we jump into numbers, there were kind of a handful of announcements maybe that we don't want to miss.
Yeah.
Those with me kind of real quickly. One of them is around some pretty exciting stuff that might be coming into the mail later this week or first.
Yes. A lot of you guys are going to be getting your ears finally. And so, Brandon and I were just thinking about that the other day. We've had a really awesome time behind the scenes with some of the key staff members here, kind of going over their equity appreciation rights, or their O's, as we call them here. And man, just such a cool process to go through, and thinking about how far we've come in 10 years and starting the company, and what it's going to mean from an impact standpoint to everyone that helped really grow the company to where it is and beyond. And we started thinking about, man, so many of you agents are getting ready to get, some of you agency owners are getting ready to get your equity appreciation right in the mail. And just, soak it in, live that moment. And then I was even thinking, like, if I'm getting that in the mail, I'm documenting it. I want a little video of that. So it'd be cool for marketing also to have it.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
We should do a shout out. So if you get something in the mail and you think it is what we're telling you it is, maybe get a spouse, a partner, a kid, a neighbor, or somebody just to get that phone out. And we always like to say, turn it.
Yeah.
And then
That's right.
hit record.
Yeah.
And we would love to see some reactions. You can just send it over to us. Probably the easiest place, Doug, would be impact@sfglife.com. But we would love to see those. That's a good call, buddy.
Yeah, man, it's a substantial, it's a little stamp of approval in life that, like, man, you created some value there. And again, this is all, it means nothing if there's no event or triggering event, but we're obviously in a position as a company to do some really, really crazy things. And we are working very hard behind the scenes to create a massive opportunity for us and for everyone on this call. And all signs are pointing towards it's going to be extremely valuable. And so whether that be, again, we actually get to the point where we can go public as a company, or there's a big strategic partner that wants to come in and capitalizes even further at that triggering event, that equity appreciation right that you received for 2019 will be worth a substantial amount of money based on our kind of target valuation that we'd be going for at a triggering event. Some of these going out to you agents will be anywhere from maybe $50,000 for the grant up to a couple few $1 million at the top range for one grant, 3 more coming. So, Brandon, it takes making money, a good amount of money for a while to start banking, 6 figures in your bank account, right? It's just the way it works. It takes a while to kind of build up just excess wealth and cash. And so this will be that for so many people. And it's gonna be fun. So document it. That'd be my message.
Yes. All right, we'll have a few more announcements. Let me go ahead and start the PowerPoint because I've got to, as you know, jump out of here a little early because I've got a doctor's appointment, unfortunately. So, all right. Probably the fastest that I've ever done it. I mean, I don't want to say that I'm getting, to be an expert because I'm certainly 10,000 hours. I'm a few thousand hours short of that, but pretty darn good if I got to say so myself. Tooting my own horn, if you will. Top new writers for the week. Here's the top 10. Elisa Hill, Francesca De Alejandro in second place, and Michael Groh with just shy of 6,500 for the week. Well done. Welcome to the team, everybody. If you're a new writer and you hit your numbers that you were shooting for, congratulations to you, even if that didn't put you in the top 3 or the number 1 or even the top 10. Really glad to have you. Welcome aboard. Top 10 producers for the week. Our top 3, as you can see, Alyssa Gonzalez, Nick and Patty Compatore, and Gail Brooke Green, 19,352 to be in first place for the week. Well done. App count wise, we had a logjam here at 13 with Karen Reed and Mark Hamelman, Cameron Henderson, Davian Clark in second place, and Glenn Groff sitting at the top. Number 1 with 16 apps in a week. Well done. A lot of people starting to do some Medicare stuff. We got some interesting news and some things we're working on behind the scenes on this that we'll be catching you up with in an evolution call here pretty soon. Casey talked about an evolution call coming at the end of summer. We're probably going to kick that back just a little bit. But we'll keep you guys posted. Advisory board meeting is later this week, so we're going to talk through a handful of these things. But congratulations to all you Medicare sup writers. Number 1, Ann Valverde with $3,000 in premium. Top critical illness producers, Lee Jed, Scott Lorenza, LaTanya James with 6,600. Disability writers, James, Christopher, Danielle Roberts, number 1. That's a heck of a DI policy right there, man. 500. Nice. Well done. Top IUL producers, got some big ones on the board here. Matthew Avila, Alyssa Gonzalez again, and Scott and Lori Stye. Would you say Stye or Stay? I'm going to go Stye. 14,400. Well done, Scott and Lori. Look at that. It's a good start. Look here. A lot more people starting to write annuities. Look at this, number 2 with almost 500,000, and number 1, Tracy Roccanello, 580 grand. That's what I'm talking about. DFL, man, I was talking to Pritchett the other day. We still got a lot of people writing some DFL. It has dropped off a little bit because people aren't doing it as much digitally, virtually. But I would begin to rethink that because a lot of people still are, like Kevin Cool, Bridget Spencer, and Gail Brooke Green with $14,000 in DFL premium for the week.
Nice.
Chris Cook sitting atop the base shop recruiting leaderboard. This does include currently non-licensed recruits as well. So going into licensing class, we're getting together with the advisory board again this week to kind of discuss what we're wanting to see and to show here. Kevin Purdy killing the competition right now, 44 direct recruits. New writers, Roddy and Jess, Eddie Pritchett, George and Janet, all with 2. Kevin Purdy sitting up top with 7. Pritchett's on the board with 5, and Pogue in the middle with 6. Key leaders, Nikki, Summer. Good time to have you on, Summer. Number 1, Christy Miller, $23,410. Top 10 agency owners, the Cowboy in 3rd place. Jerry,
Nice.
in 2nd place. Grant Lieber with $40,000, just shy of it at least. We can round up a little bit, can't we, Casey?
Sure.
All right, good. Base shops. Look at all the directs on this base shop board, first and foremost. I mean, we've already got Mank, you got Cook, you got Tarr, Penso's getting close. Look at that. Sifapur, Kashawn Monteith. Base shop has continued to explode even as he's a direct. And Melissa Weagle, look at that, $61,705.
Nice.
Well done. Top agency directors. Ben and Sarah Sifapur, Melissa Weagle again on the board, and Larry and Ann Griffin with $120,000 in premium. Rad and Beyond. Here we go. Lynn Watkins, heck of a week. Eddie Pritchett, good week. Marshall Whalen, great week. Number 1 for the week, $806,683.
Nice.
Our top 3 directs, top 10 you can see here, but the top 3 would be Miranda Martin, Kishan Monteith, Kevin Purdy, $213,222. Well done, KP. Like it. Did you see the bonuses that were paid out in July of 2020, Mr. Watkins?
Mm-hmm.
There are
I
some
sure did.
large bonuses being paid out. And I don't know about you, but I wake up every day and we always say that gratitude is one of the keys to well-being, one of the biggest keys to happiness, one of the biggest keys to stop complaining, because you're focusing on all of the good things in your lives. And that is not necessarily an easy thing to do these days, because there seems to be a lot of kind of stuff going on around us that is not good. What is good is that all of us have jobs, we're making good incomes, or at least have the ability to continue to make good incomes. And we're doing that by impacting people in a positive way. And this is proof that it's still working. Look at these numbers on the equity and 110 bonus. Marshall Whalen, Edward Pritchett. Look at these numbers, would you?
This is a bonus.
That's a bonus. This
Just
is
a bonus.
It's a pretty
Monthly
big cherry
bonus.
on top, you know? I mean, if you're going to say it's the cherry on top, it might be the largest cherry that I've ever seen.
It's a $577,000 for the month right there, which puts us at almost 4.1 million in bonuses paid just on the 110 equity side, Brandon.
Yeah, man. Not too
Pretty
sweet.
sweet.
Hey, Brandon, Casey, I sold a lot of drugs in my previous life in pharmaceutical sales. I think one quarter I doubled the all-time record for amounts sold in a 3-month period, and I got a $19,000 check for 3 months. 1 month. Why did y'all not tell me about this earlier?
The real question is, why did you not listen earlier, Todd?
That's right.
Oh, man, capital bonusers looking good. Kashawn Monteith sitting at the top. Man, almost a $5,000 bonus for the month.
Man, Brandon, think about this. When we were building our agencies, when we first got into the business in insurance and we started, placing in newspaper ads, I would spend $2,400 a month on the Philadelphia Inquirer. And that was a 4-line ad to help me recruit. And it was worth it. I mean, it worked. but it was $2,400 a month just for one newspaper ad for just a week of Sunday, or a month of Sundays.
Yeah.
4 lines, no color, no bold, no like nothing.
You know what that you know what that is, don't you?
What's that?
That's a dying industry trying to make as much money as they can on their way out.
As they were going out. Yeah, you're right about that. But man, a capital bonus would have paid for my Philadelphia Inquirer ad.
Yes, it would have.
But that was the purpose, guys, of the capital bonus. Just as a reminder for all of you guys getting capital bonuses, this is just a little extra bonus for you guys hitting those numbers to dump back into the business. It's not supposed to be an Audi payment. It's supposed to be a Zip recruiter, or an extra recruiter in the back office, or whatever it may be. Just cash flow, capital to capitalize your business. And we're always looking for opportunities behind the scenes to figure out, how do we capitalize you guys more to invest in your business? You guys know where to invest the money the best to make the biggest impact in a lot of ways. We're investing behind the scenes for certain things, but that's what that capital bonus is for.
Yes, it is. Well said. Look at these
producer bonuses,
July payouts here too, Casey. Total of $600,000, almost $700,000, just shy of $5 million for the year through July. So hopefully you guys are getting in on the action. If you're not, today's call can certainly help you figure out how to do that. A couple of events.
Let's pay out $10 million this year or more. I bet we can.
We should. I would absolutely love to do that.
Yep.
If you're not getting in on the action, hop on some of these other calls and you can learn how to implement some things that these guys and gals are doing to really get it going. For example, you've got Todd Spivey's call on Thursday, another awesome call on Thursday with Jennifer Colburn, Tiffany Newton. Unleash the Badass, becoming the warrior you were meant to be. Are you kidding me? What a great
awesome title.
Isn't that awesome?
Mm-hmm.
Exciting.
We also have coming up Monday, Marty Valor, do or do not. Do or do not? There is no try. My best Yoda voice. That's all I got. Laughing there though. Do or do not?
It actually was pretty decent.
Thank you.
It's not bad.
All right.
You're good at voices.
All right. And then big one, virtual DFL boot camp coming on September 9th and 10th. Get on the events page, get registered for that if you haven't done it. You won't regret it. Got somebody new that we want to introduce to the team. We've been searching long and hard for an extremely important position. The CFO, Chief Financial Officer of Quility. We are proud to bring on Mr. Steve Fletcher. And I'm not sure, we've got Steve live in the studio with us, don't we? The studio, are we live in the studio? Steve, are you out there? Doug Zay, do you have Steve with you?
I know he was having a few internet issues. He was texting me. I'm wondering if
no, but I can bring it. He's 2 doors down.
go get him and see if he's yeah.
Get him in there.
Right now.
Put him in front of the camera. We need to grill him for a second.
Come on in, Steve. All right. I got the seat. There he is.
There we are.
Looks just like his picture. So.
That's right. You know what? There we go.
Steve, it's good to have you.
Steve.
Yeah, man. Want to spend just a few minutes or seconds here just introducing you to the team, and maybe you can give them a little bit of your background so they can know who you are and what your qualifications are, buddy.
Yeah, sounds great. I promise I'm not as uptight as my picture there. So that was a very important thing for me to do, is to lose the tie. But so excited to be here. Really excited. Just a little bit about myself. Born and raised in New Jersey. Went to school in North Carolina, and then made my way back up to New York to start my career with Deloitte Consulting. Spent a lot of time at Deloitte Consulting in CFOs' offices trying to figure out and help them solve some pretty interesting problems. And that led me to my last client. My last client with Deloitte was AIG. And AIG at the time, it was 2007, had had plenty going on, plenty of things that needed some attention. And so the CFO there said, hey, why don't you come on board and join us for on a full-time basis, which I loved, because the one thing that I didn't feel like I was getting with the consulting side of things was the relationship building. You know, you build a good relationship and then you leave because they don't want to be paying your rates anymore, right? So, so it was great to find a home. It was great to be there, and you know, of course, I was a little nervous that maybe it would get a little bit boring, but of course, 2008 fixed all that financial crisis, and we were off and running, doing lots of cool things. So, spent 13 years there. Was a great experience, but you know, at the end of that, I started to think, you know what, I'm ready for something new and exciting. You know, there's a lot going on at AIG, but it's also a 100-year-old company, so it's tough to do anything new and innovative with a 100-year-old company. So I was ready for something different, something new. And also I was looking for, you know, a place to grow, a place that is growing, right? So most of my efforts at AIG were around, you know, efficiency opportunities, which was around kind of managing costs. And I just got tired of doing that. Wanted to grow, kind of a growth environment, and heard about you guys, and was given an opportunity to talk to you guys, and super excited that I've been given the opportunity, and looking forward to working with everybody.
Absolutely, man. Really glad to good to have you, Steve. What attracted you? And I know that you mentioned kind of growth opportunities, but I know you had a lot of different options on the table. What kind of turned Symmetry in the right direction? What made you choose us?
You know, right up there is people and culture. You know, it's you all set the tone early in terms of understanding, you know, what you put as number one in terms of the company. You know, when I've been on a few different interviews, and you guys, the way you approach the interview process, I had a Zoom call with you guys at one point where I think I had 6 or 7 of you on the call at one time. It was a little daunting, a little scary, but it was great that you were all taking so much interest in me and in the candidacy, to make sure that I was going to be a good fit for the organization, and vice versa. So I think that really went a long way with me in terms of sealing the deal.
Good stuff. Steve, we're really excited to have you, man.
Welcome aboard, man.
Yeah.
Welcome, Steve.
And unless you got to go spend some time on Wall Street with us, don't ever feel like you got to even bring that tie with you. Leave it at home.
That's right.
I made that call several years ago, and boy, is it liberating.
Oh yeah.
Out of all the fashion statements that had to stick, why the necktie? Could have at least stuck with the ascot. So,
That's right.
You know.
Welcome, Steve. Good to have you, buddy.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks.
All right, Miss Meredith, Miss Whitney, Mr. Zay. I'm not sure who's on board for our tool of the week. Is that you, Mayor?
Hey, yeah. Really, it's not me. Really, I'm just introducing Miss Ashley Tarr, who's going to break down a tool for us around the 5 gears, and just so excited to have her share with us today. 5 gears is one of my favorite tools. I think it is out there. It's just so helpful, just in communication and kind of what we need and where we are, and to be able to say, I'm ready to switch gears with you. For me, it's been really nice. So if you can go to the next slide, I'll kind of hand it over to Ashley to kind of break it down for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Mayor. Good to see you on here. This is actually one of my favorite tools as well, and it's also one of the most basic ones, I think. And you know, it's kind of one of those interesting things where I think because we can become so familiar with something, there are times and ways in which, when that happens, we can allow something to lose its power a little bit, or the impact that we allow it to have in our life. And I think for me personally, and a lot of the folks that I've been working with from a coaching perspective on the team, the 5 gears through COVID and switching and learning to operate out of the home and do mainly virtual, and all of the challenges that has brought with it for so many people. This is probably one of the tools that I have found really help people kind of regain some of their sense of control over their life and become much more productive, even though the circumstances of their lives hasn't changed necessarily. So the 5 gears essentially is looking at putting the routines and the rhythms of our life into a picture, a metaphorical picture of gears, as if they were car gears. And it teaches us how to shift through these 5 different ways that we can engage with the world around us. And I think just like driving a car, if we're in a certain situation, the first question I think we have to ask ourselves and understand is what gear do we need to be in right now to accomplish the task at hand? The second question is, what gear am I in? And if I'm not in the gear that I need to be in, then I need to switch. And so then the third question is, how do I most fluidly switch between gears? And I think this tool has applications personally, because I think it's a really good self-check to identify what gear you need to be in and where. But I also think it has such really powerful implications, Meredith, like what you were saying, as we work with other people and as we're relating with other people. If we understand this, and it really is kind of pushed throughout the culture of our teams, then there's a lot of, I think, freedom and understanding and even empathy sometimes that can come from sharing that language with each other and respecting when different ones of us are in a certain gear. I would say we all understand that time is a finite resource. It's arguably the most powerful resource that we have. And this is a tool that we say helps us become more present as well as more productive. And the way I like to think about that is to be more present really means to me to be able to actually live inside of the moment that you're in. And for your mind or your thoughts or your intentions not to be somewhere else when you're in this moment. So the gears will really help us to actually live in the moment that we're in. The second thing that it does in helping us become more productive is it helps us get more done or more out of those moments. So I think it helps us live inside of the moment. I think it also helps us get more out of those moments. So if we just take a look at these, we'll start with gear 5, focus mode. This is one that I think that the more you have to do, the more you need this gear in your life, but the harder it is to find, the harder it can be to make time for that gear 5. This is the mode where you're going to be just laser focused, no distractions. You're not trying to multitask at all. And it's often where creativity and kind of intuition, I think, can fly the highest in that focus mode. Gear 4 is going to be task mode. And I would imagine that most of us probably feel like most of our day is spent in this mode, especially if you're building a team. But even if you're just personally producing, you have dials to make, you've got appointments to set, you've got clients to serve, you've got pending to check. If you're in leadership, you're switching from coaching calls, possibly more forward thinking, kind of a larger picture situation. And so, I might have you turn the slide back, whoever moved it forward. There we go. At the end of the day, that task mode is where I think we're going to end up dwelling, but we have to be careful that we either move into 5 when we really need to focus on something to get the most out of it, or be able to kind of back up into 3. If we're in task mode all the time, that kind of multitasking role is not a healthy and sustainable place to live and camp out. And then there's social mode, and that's where you're mingling with people. You're in a very social mode. You're present with people, but you're also able to, in those conversations, move right into a work conversation or more of the task mode. You're also able to kind of downshift from just kind of light social conversation to true connection with people. And I think you have to understand, again, you have to understand where you are and also what's needed. There may be situations where you're kind of having a social hang with a couple people virtually or in person, and then you sense something in someone that you understand there really needs to be some deeper connection there at that point. And so I think the self-awareness of where you are as well as what's needed to take that further and truly connect with someone, maybe even that you work with, that in a way that doesn't have to do with work is sometimes necessary. And then of course, you know, the challenges right now with kids at home and family, and how do you relate to all of that that's going on, and make sure that you're actually really engaging in true connection with the people that you care about the most, that you need the strongest relationships with. It's going to take some awareness, and it's going to take some significant intentionality to make sure you spend enough time in that mode. And then recharge mode as well. I think this is it's especially challenging right now with work and kids and life and everything, for a lot of us being in the home. There's not an office for some people that you can break away to, especially if you've got kids that are in the house. You're juggling a lot. And so I think that recharge mode, although it's important, probably most of us right now are having to be far more vigilant about really building that into our schedules, and not just responding to it because we end up burned out. And the last gear is reverse. That's responsive mode. And you know, I think one of the primary things to truly understanding these gears is understanding when to be in which one. And oftentimes we can mess that up. We can get it wrong. And when we do that, for example, if someone brings a need to us that they have, and what they're really needing in the moment is connection, and we're in task mode, then we could potentially blow right over them, or completely miss the heart, completely miss what they're needing. And so when we engage in that kind of situation, then we've got to get really good at putting in reverse, backing up, apologizing, kind of owning what we did, letting them know, hey, I think I was in a gear 4 moment and I completely missed what you needed. Why don't we have that conversation, or why don't we schedule some time to have that conversation? Because I'd really love to show up and be present for you in that. And you know, I think what Meredith, what you were saying at the very beginning is so helpful. It's one thing, guys, for us to internalize and know these and be able to time block and set our schedules up to fit what we need done in a certain day or a certain week in. But I think that the greater challenge in really knowing yourself to lead yourself, and then beginning to lead other people with these, looks like understanding where other people are as well, being sensitive to that. I think even learning within your teams to ask the questions, you know, hey, is this a good time for us to connect about this? Or are you in a gear 5 moment right now? Or if you're really needing to connect with someone potentially about something that matters to you, then recognizing that it may be something that you need to kind of tee up for them and let them know, hey, I need some gear 2 time with you. When would be a good time that we could set that aside? And then also making sure that recharge is built in for you, as well as giving other people the freedom to build that in for themselves, I think is extremely, extremely important. And I think all of this, it was interesting. I appreciate the opportunity to go through the tool of the week, because all of this really, I think, ties in well with what we're going to be talking about later on the call, because I think the magic really happens, and we are most present and most productive when we can truly go all in on all areas. So if we are in focus mode, then we can fully be in gear 5. 100% of our attention, of our thoughts, of our energy can be in that space. If we time block appropriately and we set aside for connection, then we have some really precious and powerful time to just connect with people, and we're able to go all in there. If we need to recharge and we properly set that side of time, then we can go all in on recharging. And that's really, I think, where we begin to live a life that feels not just rich and abundant, but sustainable. Not just like we're moving the ball down the field and we're getting a ton done and accomplishing things, but we're not also exhausted and strung out all the time as well. And I think a lot of people will tend to think that going all in on something means I have to sacrifice 5 other things. And I think that it can, if we are not properly kind of aware of these gears and then setting aside specific time for each of those things. And when we do that, then we have the opportunity to fully engage with whatever we're faced with in the moment, and get the most out of it, which is going to be a blessing to us and other people. So Meredith, I'll turn it back over to you.
That was so well taught. Thank you. And it's like you said at the beginning, it is a simple tool, but I sometimes think they can carry the most weight and can be the most influential in our lives because they are simple and it is easy to just implement. I know a lot of times at night I come home and I'm still running that gear 4 mode, and Brandon's like, I need some gear 2 right now. I need to be with family. I need to do this, and vice versa. So just having that communication that he and I can have is so helpful. If not, it can cause a lot of frustration between the two of us, just because we didn't use that language of if you can give me gear 4 for 30 more minutes, I can then really go to gear 2. So just to kind of have that, I think is really, really helpful. So thank you, Ashley. That was so well delivered. And there's this worksheet. This is on our LMS system that you can do. Take some time to answer these questions. There's also different modes that we all kind of prefer and that we kind of thrive in. And so even understanding and knowing that about yourself is just very helpful as well. So Casey? Thanks.
Love this stuff, guys. Hope everyone's digging into this stuff, especially the leadership, but really everyone, this common language that we've all benefited from, especially, I hear it behind the scenes so much in our language. It's so much more efficient, but more importantly, it helps us all grow and kind of be on the same page. So as we continue to build this company the way we're building it, and the massive goals we have, protecting this culture as a baseline, but making this culture continue to thrive is kind of objective number 1 always. Past any of the things we're trying to build, the tech, all of the stuff we're trying to build behind the scenes, all of the sales, all of it, like the base of it all has to be our culture. So let's continue all digging in. Ashley, great work on that stuff. And I want to basically get you right back on. Actually, we got a Symmetry story. Let's dig into this one. Is 5 of you on there, buddy? Alec Myers. Sorry, we're playing with our PowerPoint here. It sounds like you're muted, Meredith or Doug.
I think Spivey had to take over Brandon's computer real quick, so he's.
Oh, okay.
They really had much less practice than Brandon ever had.
I know. He can have some good empathy for Brandon.
Exactly.
It wasn't so much.
How do you just stop your screen share at this point, Spivey? You've just gone all the way back to the beginning now.
I know.
Well, I can say this: it's not so much the screen share part, as Brandon's computer is like night and day different than mine, and I don't know how the buttons or the mouse works.
You got it. The leaderboards were good enough to see twice anyway, so.
That's right. We're back on track now, guys. And Alec, do we have you out there, buddy?
Yes, sir. Happy to be here. Thank you.
And thanks for joining us. Casey and I will definitely
ask you a couple questions here in just a second, but we're so appreciative to have you be a part of the Symmetry culture. We look for ways to spotlight individuals like you and so many others across Symmetry Nation on this call every week. And, this all really started with a simple text message, probably a week or so ago when I was having a good conversation with Ryan Miller, and I was saying, can you think of somebody that you think's really made a big impact? Or are you hearing things about some agents out there that are creating an incredible story? And Kayla and I maybe waited 2 minutes before Ryan Miller responded and said, we've got to get Alec on a call. So that kind of impact, and not just through, your direct upline with Grant Lieber, but I mean, throughout the whole organization, to know that the leaders are recognizing and keeping their finger to the pulse and know that individuals like you are being repeatedly brought up to their attention, just speaks a lot to that culture that Casey's talking about. So let me start off right quick with a little note that Grant Lieber did write on your behalf. Where do I even begin? Alex is a giving soul through and through. He constantly is working on himself to be better equipped to help others, and it shows up by the quality of individuals that look up to him for guidance and mentorship. He always leads by example by putting up consistent production numbers, currently making his run from top producer to elite producer. We met as total strangers, but now our friendship has eclipsed our business partnership. Alec is the kind of guy who will lay on the tracks for you, and his loyalty and integrity shines in everything he does. I am so grateful to not only be in business with Alec, but also his incredible wife, Renee, who brings the much needed glue to Team Myers.
Nice. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was a great note. Really appreciate you sending that in out there, Grant, and you working with Ryan to make sure that we got Mr. Alec on the spotlight today. So let's start off and let's hear a little bit about you, buddy, and your background, and how did you get to Symmetry?
So I'm Alec Myers, and super, super thankful to be on the call with you guys, direct to Grant Lieber and Josh and Danielle's hierarchy. And, I started in insurance. I was with a practice company for about a year before I came to Symmetry, and I basically spent my entire life savings running that business into the ground. I was not good at insurance. I was not even really that great at sales. Truthfully, I didn't even really want to be in insurance anymore. I didn't want to come to Symmetry, but thank God. I took the interview. I remember being at my grandmother's house, and Renee and I were there, and we were about to eat. And Renee said, well, don't you have an interview right now? And I said, well, it's with insurance. I don't really want to do it. And she said, well, what else do you have going on right now? And I said, nothing. And she's like, you better go take that interview. So I really owe it all to my darling wife to get me in the back room and take that interview with Grant. So I started in July of 2018, and really just I was broken, man. I had I'd lost both my vehicles. I was about to lose my house, and really it was my only last resort. And I told Grant, because he asked me, coming from another practice company, how coachable are you? And I was just to the point, man. I was like, look, if it's moral and ethical and you tell me to wear a red shoe and a blue shoe, and that's what writes policies, and that's what I'll do. And I'm super, super thankful for the leadership to follow all the way up from the top, Brandon, Brian, and Casey, all the way down. And it's really changed my life.
Man, that's a great story. And it really is. I mean, sometimes you got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired before you can have that major comeback. And I personally was there too. So I truly respect it. And I do want to hit on the numbers a little bit. I mean, you had a significant spike. I lost my notes when Brandon threw me into his office and had to take over the PowerPoint, but it seemed like we had about a $11,000 to $40-something thousand jump here recently in your total production. What happened?
Yeah, well, it really, the long of it was with COVID. When everything happened with COVID, it was a completely different dynamic going from in the home to on Zoom. And it's been a constant progression of, ever since February of you know, looking at who I was, you know, a lot of the self-awareness pieces of, you know, what am I doing? What am I comfortable with? And what am I not comfortable with? And what it really came down to was I struggled a lot with the belief and that Zoom would work. And then, you know, again, I just go back to the leadership, you know, Grant Liebert, Josh Hershey, Carl Miller, especially, you know, it was go back to the basics. And so that's exactly what I did. I remember in the beginning when I first started that I was really uncomfortable with pushing resources. I was really uncomfortable spending more in leads than I was spending for my own mortgage. And so what happened recently was I really attribute it a lot to the team. You know, the team has just made such an improvement over the last couple of months. And that's what's really inspired me to be better and push the envelope and lead by example. And a lot of it's really come down to, you know, what Ashley Tarr was talking about with knowing yourself to lead yourself. You know, your tendencies create those patterns that move into actions, and then the consequences of those, you know, form your reality. And for me, it was just, I had to push the envelope again because the team was doing so well and I wanted to be the leader that they deserved. And of course I have a lot more to work on. But I really got to give it all to the team that's been doing so well to inspire me to kind of push that envelope.
So good. That
Awesome,
faith
man.
in that system and buying in.
Yep.
We can never say it enough to Cicely Newsom and so many that worked tirelessly on the itty bitty COVID committee and what they did behind the scenes, and Brandon and
Yep.
Pope and Casey having the foresight to kind of create that, you know, the shatter the glass and grab the axe in case of emergency. And little did we know within weeks that emergency was real. And Cicely and the itty bitty COVID committee was ready and really created a path for us all to continue to move forward. So appreciate you having that belief in that. And I got to ask you, I'm sure Casey might want to ask you something too, but on this hockey rink, are you an enforcer or are you a scorer?
You know, I'm a little bit of everything. Have you ever watched kindergarten soccer? All right, so picture a bunch of grown men in ice skates chasing a puck. It's like kindergarten soccer for adults. No, it's fun, man. You know, I'm in the 30 and over group now, so I'm a big fish in a little pond. I don't have to outskate all these 18-year-olds anymore.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's fun, man. I play center in a men's league. It's really just for recreational. You know, we really, it gets a little aggressive, but
well, it's hockey, right? I mean, come on.
Right.
Hey,
yeah.
I guess you recognized pretty quickly what the hat trick bonus was when we rolled that out, right?
Yeah, that's my lingo. Yeah.
Yeah, you understand hat trick, right? That's awesome, man. So how much of your appointments now are virtual?
I would say 90%.
Nice.
Very rarely will I try and go into a home now, and that's not because I don't want to. It's just with everything with all the changes that I've made, you know, with the help of everyone, you know, in my upline, I'm just able to cover so much more ground. You know, windshield time was taking a lot out of my day.
Absolutely.
And I mean, now it's like if someone doesn't show up or I don't have an effective lockdown and they ghost me or whatever, I mean, number one, I'm home. I can spend time with my family, which is part of that symmetry balance. But on the flip side of that too, you know, I can work on getting business issued. I can check in with agents, and it's just been so much more effective, man, running things virtually. And I was so against it in the beginning. I mean, I was excited for it, but it just did not work for me in the beginning.
Man, you know, it's you just can't get emotional about the response. Meaning, like with anything, when you're working leads or whatever, like if you're going to get emotional about anything, get emotional about the actual result. So let's say a lead or virtual, like maybe your close ratios, especially when you get started, aren't as good. You know, maybe they're 10%, 20% lower. Well, can you backfill that extra 5 hours of drive time that you had between appointments, driving all over the place? Can you backfill that with more appointments? You know, and so the net end result is, yes, I got more no's, but I got more yeses in the end because I had more time. and Alex, someone to kind of look through all that, look through the negative, the response of it all, and just pay more attention to the actual net result at the end. It's hard to do. We're emotional beings. We get caught up in that. We don't like being told no. And so, man, I'm getting told no a lot. You hear people like that with leads sometimes, Spivey, where it's like the call-in leads versus direct mail, mortgage protection. Call-in actually net, when you factor in the costs and everything, it's a better lead. You're gonna get more no's potentially, but in the end, the net ROI on a call-in is better. But you have to be strong enough, kind of mentally, to sort through all that, right? So same thing with virtual sales. Like, we're seeing the guys that are doing virtual sales, like yourself, coming out ahead in the equation. And then you factor in what was I spending on gas? What was I spending on Wendy's Baconators and Chick-fil-A and whatever else I was eating in the field, and how was that affecting my health, in the long. So love what you got going on, man.
Yeah, man. We appreciate you being on, buddy, and we appreciate your whole entire upline. I mean, just the names you've mentioned between Grant and Carl and Ryan Miller, and the leadership they provide, and how kind they are.
Heck of a team,
the home office, and just that entire Wayland hierarchy is just you got a special team, buddy. That they're very special to us, and we just couldn't be prouder to have you be part of the family, man.
I'm so grateful for you guys. Truly, you guys are like family to me. I get so much out of these calls, and I get so much out of the association of everybody, and that's one thing that I really loved about coming to Symmetry was everybody that I interacted with was better than I was at everything. And it just completely has changed my life. And so I'm so grateful for all you guys. So thankful for the company, the leaders, Brandon, Brian, and Casey, all the uplines. Truly, truly blessed to be here.
Thank you, buddy.
Man.
Feeling is 100% mutual, man. Thank you, buddy. If you're wondering where the Baconator comment came from,
they have Pringles Baconators.
Little story about this. Pope always is sending us just random stuff in the mail at the office. So he sent us no less than maybe 40 of these.
Oh, I think we've already given away 40 and have 50 left. I think.
Yeah, thanks, Pope. So anyways, that's where that just kind of brain fart came from when I was throwing out what you were eating for lunch. But thank you, man.
Thanks,
awesome
Alex.
to have you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Killing it. Keep it up.
Ashley and Summer and Jordan, if y'all would all light up here with Mr. Casey.
That's right. Hey, guys, we'll turn it over to y'all because y'all got a bunch of awesome stuff to talk about. I did just want to mention to everyone that be ready for next week's call as well, because we're going to be talking with the advisory board tomorrow. Ashley, I think we got a call tomorrow. Couldn't remember what day it was. But we're going to be talking about a big September-October blitz with a heavy focus on recruiting and personal production, obviously, production. So we're just kind of thinking about where we are in the year, thinking about all the rollouts from Evolution Part 2, what's coming in Evolution Part 3, but also just the timing in the year right now, guys, is it's perfect because October is a 5-week turn-in, and we feel like building through September and then everyone focusing on making October the largest record we've ever broken, and individually, whether it's you're on the call and you're just a personal producer at this point, whether you're a key leader, a team leader, or you're on up to agency owner and hire. Like, what is my 4-week record? What is my 5-week record for the personal best we've ever done? And we want everyone kind of aligned and thinking about September and October, especially October with that 5-week turn in. So we want to do some big things together, and we'll think of some really cool prizes and stuff like that for everyone that kind of gets in that top world. But we're going to be talking with the advisory board about it. We've just been looking at our calendar, looking at where lead flow is going to be in September and October. It's already way up, but it's getting ready to be even more up. We got unemployment where it is right now in the country. We have return rates going through the roof. So it truly is another perfect storm opportunity for our company to just shatter some records. So, and I think we're looking at a few key players here that are going to help us do that. Ashley, I won't take up any more of y'all's time, but man, and Jordan and Summer, anyone else on the team from y'all? Just y'all? Love it. That's great. Can't think of.
Actually, I do have to take up one moment because everybody on your team has heard this story ad nauseum, but maybe some out there at Symmetry haven't heard it from me. I am forever direct to Sandy Young, who just happens to be married to Danny.
That's right.
And when I started my journey at Symmetry, when I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired in pharmaceutical sales, I started working part-time on Saturday and Sunday. The only 2 days of the week I was actually home from living in an apartment 4 hours away from my family. I started running appointments to learn the Symmetry system and build a team and get myself out of that situation. And I can't tell you how important it was for me to have Ashley Tarr, even though she didn't make a single dollar from anything I did because I was direct to Danny.
Yep.
She poured her heart into me and my agents and trained us. She allowed me to be a part of her group me. She had agents on standby for all of my agents when they were in home and had emergencies because I didn't have a clue what I was doing writing business at that time. And I just can't ever thank you, Ashley, enough and tell you that those actions by you spoke to me so truly. What I'd seen with my eyes, I really knew at that point with my heart, was the true intent and love of this company and the fact that we're here to lift up others. And it's not about our own direct downlines or what makes us money. It's truly about helping others get to a place where they can be their best self. And Ashley, you demonstrated that like nobody else, and I'll be forever grateful.
And I'll just put a bow on that with some results. Ashley, you know, you guys on the call listening in, you're tuning into a call where you have a advisory board member on the call, truly kind of behind the scenes, helping to shape the direction of the company. It's important to have leaders like Ashley on that have results, but also understand, you're connected, Ashley, to what's going on in the field. You're connected to the leadership with Summer and Jordan, but you're running as much, if not more than 90% of the life insurance companies in America run. So for everyone listening, not a bad hour here to plug into some of the top leaders in the industry on the call. So appreciate you guys being on. Can't wait to hear the content. We're gonna hand it over to y'all. Thank you guys.
Gosh, thank you both. And Todd, I would just say to you, you're very welcome, but it was easy to do for you because of who you are, and also it was not a solo effort. And I would wager that these two amazing humans I've got on with me, Jordan Shank and Summer Friesen, were two of the biggest supports and helpers both to you and your team. So that was definitely a team effort. Cannot take credit for all of that at all. And also, I think so many of us start here at Symmetry in a very different situation than we end. So, I have been the recipient of this culture, of the coaching, of the leadership, and this investment into my life. And I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this family, of this company, and of things that are happening as we continue to forge forward. So really, really grateful for the opportunity to be on this call today on this platform with two of my very good friends and just incredible business partners. It's an honor to you both, Summer and Jordan, to share the stage with y'all, and I can't wait to hear what you have to share. So I want to kind of provide a little bit of context. We've been talking a lot, I would say the past several months really, since COVID has hit, on the need to be very intentional, on the need to really take some serious inventory of our activity, of our thought life, of our mindset, of our emotions, and really understanding that when you're in chaos, one of a leader's primary roles is to bring order into that chaos somehow, and it's not an easy thing to do. And whether you're leading your family, and you're personally producing, but you're also leading children, whether you're leading yourself right now, or whether you're leading a growing agency, a large agency, I think what these guys are going to share today is going to be really practically helpful for you. One of the words that we've been using a lot is auditing. And so we're talking today about the power of auditing your life. And I think we can audit in just about every area of our life. Typically, when we hear that word, we probably cringe because the IRS comes to mind, and then we don't want to have anything to do with that. That's not the kind of auditing that we're talking about today, but it really is auditing your life. And when you think about that word, it actually means a review of a systematic review, a systematic assessment of something. And I think it's important for us, especially in chaos, especially if we're trying to actually grow through chaos, to take a look at the different parts and pieces of our life and perform an audit. Otherwise, all we feel is chaos and confusion, and we won't know why. And if we don't know why, we won't know what the solution is. We won't know what to do about it. And so the chances are things will continue to escalate and continue to feel more out of sync, more out of rhythm, more overwhelming, more confusing. And so what I hope happens today is you guys are given some tools to bring some order into that chaos in three distinct areas. So we're going to be talking today specifically about auditing, first of all, our schedules. Taking a systematic review, a systematic assessment of our schedule, of our time. The second thing that we're going to be talking about is taking an audit of our mindset, of the thoughts that we're having, systematically reviewing those things. And then the third and final thing is we're gonna look at auditing our emotions, and doing the same thing, taking a systematic assessment of our emotions and trying to understand what to put where, what to do with all of these things. Because the reality is, if we're thinking time, if we're thinking mindset, our thought life, if we're thinking our emotions, those are all three really powerful forces. They are resources. They can be tamed and used for the purpose of moving us forward in life. But they are so powerful that if we don't actually audit, I think, understand those things, identify those things, and then tell those things where to go, we can spin out of control real quick. And so the reality is, if we don't master them, they're going to master us. And I would argue, because I know I've experienced it, and I know from talking with Summer and Jordan throughout the past 6 or 7 months, they've experienced it at times. We can all let our guard down, and we can be run by our schedule, and instead of running our schedule. we can let our thought life go and be run by our thoughts instead of running our own mind. We can absolutely then be run by our emotions instead of choosing to kind of harness and run them proactively. And when we set up life like that, when we begin to really audit things on the regular, and I would argue actually that the more closely we audit, not just a one time a year thing, not just once a quarter, maybe not even once a week or once a day, maybe it's literally every hour you take a quick inventory in these areas and really try to understand where you're at. The tighter you do that, the more proactively you do that, the more productive you're going to be. And the more ownership you're actually going to have over your life, and the more control you're going to have over where you end up, even if you cannot control the circumstances around you, which we all know we can't. So I want to go ahead without too much further ado and introduce our first guest, Summer Friesen. Summer is just an exceptional human and friend, but in this business, she's an absolute powerhouse. I have watched her. She's the mother of 2 young children. Her husband also tours. He's a musician and he's on the road probably as much, if not more sometimes, than he's home. However, with COVID, he was also home. And so all of the rhythms of life that summer that you were used to, I know kind of got kicked out of the window. And I saw you wrestle with that. I saw you grapple with that. I saw you make some changes. I saw you kind of be hit by it at first until you implemented some of these things and turn the tide, turn the situation around. And the result has been something so powerful. This month, I'm incredibly proud of the way that you have just consistently audited every area of your life that I'm aware of. And I know right now you're sitting on about 40,000 in personal production with 2 children at home, and managing that by yourself most of the time. Your team is over 60,000, and you're a key leader. You're not officially an agency owner yet, but you're well on your way at this point. And it's been incredible to see the transformation in your journey that's happened as you have taken a lot of these steps and truly applied them to life, not just heard, but actually implemented them in your life. And the last thing that I'll say about you is you're one of the most aware and available leaders that I know. You're constantly aware of what's going on and what people need around you, and you make yourself available even to your own detriment quite often. And so I'm incredibly grateful that you're a part of the Tarr agency. I'm incredibly grateful to know you and learn from you, and I'm excited for the rest of Symmetry to do the same.
Wow, thank you, Ashley, for that gracious introduction. I'm super grateful to be on today. Honored. Summer Friesen, direct to the one and only Ashley Tarr, part of the Danny Young hierarchy. Just have to take a minute first and just thank you, Ashley, for all that you've poured into me. Just the belief that you and Danny and Sandy have poured into me over these years that I've been here has been life-changing. And I also have to thank the owners, Brandon and Casey and Brian, just for what you've created here. It really resonated with me what Steve Fletcher was saying earlier about people and culture, drawing him here. I came from corporate America, and that was one of the first things that stood out for me when I first met Brandon and Casey. It was before a meeting, and they were in like gym shorts rolling in before everybody had changed. I had no idea they were the owners. I wasn't even licensed yet. Ashley introduced me, and they had no pomp and circumstance. They didn't tell me they were the owners, and they walked off, and I found out who they were. And talk about auditing. I was certainly auditing everything that I had just said upon finding that out. But just really grateful for the tone that you all set with your leadership and just the integrity of this company. So grateful to be on today and sharing with you all. I, as Ashley mentioned, have 2 young kids. So without schedule, which is what I'm really focusing on today, life becomes even more chaotic and confusing than it already can be. And, Ashley said earlier on when she was talking about the 5 years, time is a finite resource. And I think this season, I know I would bet that all of us have experienced some chaos, some confusion, certainly a lot of change. And I think there is something that's really valuable to learn through these lessons and through these seasons, because we have the time to actually sit and take inventory and audit what's going on in our hearts, what's going on in our minds, what's going on practically in our schedules. And that really is a gift. It's a gift to be able to take that time and do that. So Socrates has a quote that an unexamined life is not worth living. And if you think about audits, audit is kind of an intimidating word, right? They're precise. They don't leave a lot of room for error. And that can seem a little bit scary. But what I have found in taking the time to really audit my schedule and activity recently is that it's actually, I have a lot more time than I thought I had. And that's actually enabled me to be effective in all of the areas of my life. I know Alec talked about virtual allowing you to be more effective or more productive with the hours that you have. And after dragging my feet through some change and some going back to the basics, I've certainly found that to be true as well. If you think about how many of you have ever done a budget for yourself? At the beginning, there's a lot of pushback or fear around, oh man, this is going to feel restrictive, or what if I don't feel like sticking to it, or I don't really need to do that. I've got things under control. I know what's going on. I just kind of want to do what I want to do and have freedom, right? So a lot of us come here for freedom. And the reality of what happens is that when we have boundaries, that's actually what creates freedom. If we don't have boundaries, there's chaos and there's confusion. And so boundaries actually create that freedom. They create rhythm, and ultimately rhythm is what creates momentum here. I was thinking back to kind of seasons of life that I've had, and there's a pattern that the busier I am, the more planning I have to do to survive. And those actually end up being the most productive seasons for me. When I was in college, what seems like a long time ago now, I played volleyball, and this happened every year when I was in season, and practicing 2 to 3 hours a day, traveling to games, missing classes because of travel. I actually did much better in school. And the reason for that is not because I had less to do, obviously, but it's because I had a built-in structure that forced me to be intentional and disciplined. And I would say, unfortunately, in this business, my coach is not going to bench me if I don't show up to practice on time. My business professor isn't going to fail me if I don't study. But the stakes are higher now. Like when you are running a business, and this is not a hobby, the results of not being disciplined and scheduled and committing to your activity are far more detrimental. And when you don't have a schedule and you don't have those boundaries in place, you will exhaust yourself. You will exhaust everyone around you, your family, your team, your coaches, your mentors, by not being intentional in your activity. So yeah, I would say that the virtual world really enables us to be able to do that now, because we don't have to leave the house. We're not spending that windshield time that Alec mentioned driving. For me, there was a lot of that. But the flip side of that is we have to be more structured and have a plan, because there can be more distractions at home, right? Kids, laundry, those of you that are virtually schooling your children, God bless you. But when you set goals for yourself, it's never the perfect timing. I committed to some really big goals this month, and my month started with a trip to see family that had been planned for months, that we needed to do. And then my kids started school, and some other things that have happened have really made it the busiest month I've had in a long time. But I've actually felt more freedom than I have in probably the 6 months prior that I had been grinding really, really ineffectively. And so don't wait for the perfect time to make changes or to start setting goals or working your plan. It's never going to come. You can always find excuses if you look for them. But I would say start taking inventory of those things now. There's always going to be challenges. Ashley mentioned, there's always going to be things that are out of our control. And if you're anything like me, we can sometimes tend to let ourselves off of the hook too easily. And I would say that's really the season that I had been in, February, March, and going forward. And if you would have asked me in that season if I was working hard or working a plan or working a schedule, I probably would have said, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm doing that. But the problem was, internally, I knew that I wasn't. And when you know you're not doing something, do you know what that does to you, to your sense of integrity, to your mindset? When you don't follow through, even if nobody else sees it, you know it. And so I would actually say that having a schedule and treating this business like a business and not a hobby is actually a matter of integrity. Doing what you said you were going to do is a matter of integrity, and the payoff when you have done that, it is huge, and really powerful for your mentality. And I'm going to go into just some practical things. I think one of the main shifts in my mindset here as I've been focusing on schedule is that I'm actually just focusing on the activity and the commitments I've made to my schedule. The results are going to follow if I do that. And I've spent some serious time and energy kind of striving or looking for a certain number or a certain title here. But when you make the activity and the schedule your goal and discipline yourself to that, the money is always going to follow your faithfulness. It's always going to follow your discipline and your commitment to your work. I have 3 practical points that have really helped me in fine-tuning my schedule. The first one is begin with the end in mind. Schedule ahead of time and have a plan. If you don't do this, you will spend an incredible amount of time and energy being reactive instead of proactive. You have to guard your schedule. If you're growing in leadership, if you have a team, and you're also personally producing, you'll know that that's more important than ever. I've been shocked to realize actually how much energy I wasted on sitting there and trying to figure out what I was going to do next, because I didn't have a schedule I was sticking to. But here's the key when you have a schedule in place. If you have a plan without an action, it's not a plan. It's just a speech. So you actually have to execute your schedule and stick to it. The second thing would be time block everything. So the week before, on Friday, I'm making my for the following week. If you do it any later than that, it's too late. And so you should know how many appointments you need to reach your goal. And you should know about how much dial time you're going to need to set those appointments. If you don't, touch base with your mentor and your coach. They can help you figure that out. But everything should have a time block. So personal development time in the mornings, exercise, family time, the dials, the national and your team calls, your appointments. You should have everything mapped out and time blocked out. And that will give you a lot of freedom, and you'll save a lot of time and energy by just being able to look at that. The third thing, and this is probably the thing that, to be honest, was the hardest for me, because I think those of us that pride ourselves on being independent, we don't necessarily love accountability. We don't always love to invite that in. And the reason is because I think we don't want to stick to what we said we were going to do. And so we don't invite anybody else into that. But how many of you have ever, tried to work out by yourself? I know that there are some exceptions to this rule, Ashley probably being one of them. There are some people that are just really internally disciplined and who, rain or shine, will get up and run or work out by themselves, and that's just what they do. I am not one of those people. And if I have a buddy that I'm going to work out with, I am highly more likely to get out of bed when I'm tired, to lace up my shoes, to push past the list of the 10 excuses that I'm telling myself are valid. And to be honest with you, 90% of the time, even with the buddy system in place, I still don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like it. But I will, because there's somebody else on the other side waiting for me to show up and do my part. And the result, if I don't get up, is maybe more sleep, maybe less sweat, certainly, but also less muscle, less endurance, less momentum moving into my day. So I would really encourage you to share your schedule with somebody else, with your mentor, with your upline for accountability. Number one, they can help you see where there might be room for improvement. You have to be open to feedback. But it's just going to give you that extra push when you don't feel like doing something, to stay true to your schedule and what you've committed to. Something that Ashley said at her talk at a conference a few years ago, missed those, but she gave a talk called The Exchange Zone. And one thing that stuck with me that I think about on a daily basis is what we do matters and what we don't do matters. So everything we do matters. What we do matters and what we don't do matters. So take inventory of your schedule and your activity. Audit yourself. Don't leave room for error and wasted time and energy. And I'll pass it back to you, Ash.
Awesome job. Thank you so much for that. And I've loved seeing the transformation in your life. As easy as it sounds, guys, to plan your work and then work your plan. Actually doing that is a completely different thing than saying it. So, and there's been just exceptional power in it, Summer, and it's literally had immediate results, which I think is the coolest thing. And if you're out there and you have still been feeling through this climate and all the changes, like you just cannot get on top of your schedule, do the things that Summer said. Take an assessment, take inventory of your time, plan every single thing of your week next week, and share that with someone that's an influence in your life, either your upline, your agency owner, someone that is where you want to be, that's getting the results that you want, and ask them to hold you accountable and see what 1 week will do. Because I know, Summer, for you, 1 week of that changed the game. And if you get results after 1 week, you're going to want to do it the next week and the next week and the next week. So give it a go. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next guest right now, Jordan Shank. You are no stranger to this stage. You're just beloved across Symmetry for good reason. I'm so privileged to consider you a co-leader. And a friend of mine. I'm excited to hear you talk about auditing our thought life and our mindset, because you're one of the most consistent leaders that I've seen. And I think to be consistent as a leader, you have to know, any consistent leader knows how to harness their own mind and harness their thought life in order to stay consistent. In spite of the climate. And I've seen you lead well through incredible growth. I've seen you lead well through loss. I've seen you lead well through COVID and not COVID. And a lot of that has to do with the discipline and the choice that you've made just to steward and to harness your own mindset and thought life. So I will pass it to you, and we'll look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ashley, for that very kind introduction. And Symmetry family, it's an honor to be on this call. I'm Jordan Shank. As Ashley mentioned, I am direct to the great Ashley Tarr and a part of the Tarr Young amazing dynasty, and very, very privileged to be a part of that. It's an honor every day, Ashley, to be able to work with you and Danny and the rest of our team. We've just got an amazing, it's amazing what we get to do every single day in protecting families and helping people build businesses. It's awesome. So thank you for your leadership and your friendship. Also want to just give a huge shout out to and word of gratitude to Brandon, Casey, and Brian, just so much for creating this incredible roadmap and this incredible pathway to building a business. And it was funny because I was talking with some Symmetry friends of ours the other day, and we were talking about how this really is an unparalleled opportunity to build a business, but more than that, to really build a life. And to really build this, and how we were just talking about how much of a lifestyle business this is, and how we get a community, and how we get people and running buddies and people that want the same thing to have the same impact, and just the incredible privilege and gift that is. So Casey, Brandon, Brian, I don't know if you're watching, but thank you so much for that. So yeah, auditing our thoughts. Summer just gave a great tips and tools for auditing our schedule. I think I would argue that this business, probably all businesses for that matter, are won or lost on a daily basis in our minds. We talk so much about mindset here at Symmetry because who we are starts in our minds. And who we are is going to determine how big we grow as people, and how big we grow as people. It's one of our core values. Relentless pursuit of personal growth. That is going to determine the level of impact that we have on our agencies, on our clients, on the folks that are coming here to build a business. And so, Ashley, in talking about this theme of the power of auditing our lives, I want to start off by asking, what does it actually mean to audit our thoughts? Like, what does that phrase actually mean? And so for me, it's very simple. For me, auditing our thoughts means thinking about what you actually think about. Thinking about what you actually think about. And I know this seems a bit weird to do at first probably, but it's a practice that has led to a real significant breakthrough for me and for my business. I know I've heard talked on the national call a number of times and throughout Symmetry that our life and our businesses move in the direction of what we think about the most, and what we meditate on, and what we our strongest thoughts. So then doesn't it make sense then to reflect and to identify and to spend time knowing exactly what those primary thoughts are? And so to get kind of practical here, if you were to be honest, and we were sitting across the table and you were being honest with me, were most of your thoughts this week based in worry? Were they based in fear, in doubt? Were most of the things that were occupying your mind, finances, family, kids going back to school, production, lack of production, administration, to-do lists, what ifs, all the different kind of factors that are in our lives? Were those the dominant thoughts, or were most of your thoughts based in peace? Were they based in confidence? Were they based in a deep trust and conviction in the system that we have? In other words, were most of your thoughts based in faith, or were they based in fear? Were they based in faith of building a business and a life here, or based were they filled with ideas like, who else can I talk to about this business that could change their lives, especially with so many people losing their jobs right now? Was it, how can I get as many people to experience the incredible power and system that we have just at our fingertips here at Symmetry? Or were they based in fear? What if that person says no? What if I approach someone who I know and love and they pour cold water over what I'm doing? What if an agent leaves? What if something doesn't work out for someone? Were most of the thoughts this week for you negative or positive? And most of us don't really even take the time to think about this. It just happens subconsciously. So if our life and our business is always moving in this direction of what we think about the most, the question I would ask is, are you excited about where your thoughts are taking you? Is that something that fires you up? Do you get out of bed every single morning ready to run as hard as you can at this incredible opportunity based on what you're thinking about the most? So the next thing is, how do we actually do this? How do we actually go about auditing our thoughts? And especially when we're in the heat of battle, or in the heat of the moment, in those moments, how do we continue to move forward with confidence? Because it's easy to say, oh yeah, I should pay attention to what I'm thinking. Yeah. But when I'm faced with real life, when I'm faced with kind of the ups and downs, the challenges of everyday real life, it seems a bit trivial. So how do we capture our minds to make sure we're moving in the direction that we want? I think there's two very simple ways. The first way that I would say is to name the thought, to actually name exactly what I'm thinking. Neuroscientists that have studied the brain, and I'm not one of them, I'm relying on my research here, but neuroscientists that have studied the brain have determined that the more that you think a thought, the easier it is to think that thought again. They call that a neural pathway. You know, when we think something, it creates a tiny little pathway in our brain that makes it easier for us to think that same thought again. It's how this amazing machine called our brain operates at its highest efficiency, right? So if you think something enough times, eventually that thought is going to become your default. That is just going to be what you default to in that moment. And that's how, if we're not careful, we end up so far off base than what we actually believe something to be true, because we've thought something so much that it's not what we actually want. We get all the way down the road and wonder how we allowed ourselves to get here. So the first step to taking back the control of our minds is to pause long enough to actually name the thought. And the second way is to name the truth. The second way to make sure that we always move in the direction that we want is to capture lies that our mind sometimes wants to tell us. Because here's the cool thing about those neural pathways that I also mentioned, is that the reverse is also true. If we're faithful to audit our thought process, if we're faithful to pay attention to what we're actually thinking about and choosing to allow in our mind, if we repeatedly take stock of our thoughts, then those thoughts that we want to govern our lives become the ones that are automatic. That becomes our default. So small neural pathways that form that allow us to operate from a place of confidence, abundance, and peace. So here's how full transparency here, here's how I've kind of seen this play out, these concepts play out in my business. Around the beginning part of June, middle of June, I noticed that due to COVID, due to kind of the massive shifts in our selling system, moving to a virtual environment, I kind of noticed, it's kind of crazy that I'm even admitting this on a national call, but I had kind of noticed that the dominating thought in my mind was a pretty dangerous one, actually. And it was this, it was that 2020 is just going to be a wash. 2020 is just going to be a wash. In other words, 2020 is going to be a year where if we can, as an agency, just hang on, if we can just plant some seeds and get through this, then 2021 will be the year that we make significant ground. That's going to be the year that we really kind of move forward. And then this summer, as I heard the owners roll out evolution of the company, the 2 different evolution calls, and it was just thing after thing that made me stop and think and go, okay, is this really true? Is this really what is going to happen? What if 2020 wasn't a wash, but rather what if 2020 was a foundation? What if moving to a virtual selling environment due to COVID isn't a challenge to overcome or something to learn, but rather a gift to be stewarded? Kind of a quick sidebar on this, we have someone on our team who we hired who's become a great writer, who it's a crazy story, but prior to coming here, he was looking for somewhere where he could sell in a virtual environment because he has MS. And going into homes, going into people's homes is just not feasible. It's not realistic due to his condition. But because of the quick thinking of the owners, because of the quick thinking of Symmetry, now we have a platform for him where he's a great writer, he's a solid writer, he's increasing every single month. And I just think that's a gift. This was a gift, a simple change in mindset. It allowed us to go out and hire someone that is now writing a good deal of business every single month. What if the goal isn't just to get through 2020, but to seize every single opportunity that's in front of me? And being willing to question that initial thought personally as well within my agency led to a couple different breakthroughs. The first one being we broke out a new key leader in the form of Jennifer Gaines. And huge congratulations to her for putting in the work and being willing to press through a difficult summer. You know, we hosted our first ever agency leadership retreat with Brian Williamson. And what an honor to be able to gather and listen and hear some of his wisdom. A number of new agents just by questioning, hey, what if 2020 is not a wash, but what if this is the time to take ground? A number of new agents are seeing their record month this month, which is just amazing to be a part of and amazing to see. So Ash, I appreciate you having me on and giving me the opportunity to share. I do want to just kind of wrap here with a few truths. If you find yourself in the position that I was in maybe just a couple months ago, I'd like to just share a few things that I read to myself every single day. I remind myself of every single day. And if you find yourself in a position of questioning, wondering what is true, what is not true, maybe believing some of these thoughts that as you hear me talk, may not be serving you, I hope you can borrow this. And I hope these 10 things really encourage you. So this is not something I came up with. This is actually a compilation of some authors and speakers and wisdom of people that I greatly respect. So I can't take credit for all of it. But these are things that I remind myself of every single day, and it helps to keep me on track. Number one, the Symmetry system works 100% of the time, so long as I work the system. I love the way Brian Delaney said, I think it was a couple weeks ago, the system is not suspect. You are, right? If it's not working for you, it's not because of the system. Number two, pain is my friend. It makes me a stronger and a better leader. Number three, I bring my best and then some. It's what I do after I bring my best that makes all the difference. And guys, waking up with that thought just fires me up to attack the day. Number four, regardless of the outcome, the families I sit with and the agents I interview will be better because I showed up for them. Number five, I have purpose, direction, and meaning every day in my life. Guys, the relationships that have come into my life through this company are lifelong, and I can never repay Casey, Brandon, and Brian for the relationships that we have here. Number six, I am disciplined and pursue excellence in all things and constantly develop my craft. Number seven, I have a team around me that cares for me, and I'm not in this alone. And none of you, and no one on this call is in this alone. My words, thoughts, and actions and reactions are entirely in my control. Number nine, I believe the best about people, even when it's difficult. And sometimes in the middle of a pandemic, sometimes things get difficult. And number 10, my life and my business is always moving in the direction of my thoughts. Therefore, I remind myself of the truth. So Ashley, thank you for having me on and inviting me to be on this call. Thank you for your leadership, and I'll turn it back to you.
Well, you're so welcome. Excellent job, both of you. That was absolutely excellent. And I think the powerful thing for me, Jordan, is that you live that out. Like I said before, it's one thing to hear the encouragement to practice affirmations and monitor your thought life from someone who's a train wreck. It's a completely different situation to receive that from someone who consistently lives their life that way. So I really appreciate your leadership and your partnership. And guys, if you don't do anything else from what Jordan said, then get a hold of those affirmations somehow, make your own, whatever you need to do. But when you do begin to change your thought life and create those new pathways, it truly does change everything. And it's so worth it. So Spivey, did you want to pop in and say something, or you want me to?
I'll let you wrap it up in just a second.
Okay.
I just want to say, Summer and Jordan and Ashley, thank you so much for pouring in. The team over here is trying to type responses as fast as possible as they're coming in to text and emails and to the chat board over there. And so many requests for Jordan, for you to post on Facebook, the bullet points you just went through, and Summer, for you to do the same. And just, you touched a lot of lives today, and I appreciate you both. And Jordan, for you, buddy, you've been a good friend to me. We hit it off right from the jump first time I met you, and just saw a kindred spirit. And you know, we all like here at Symmetry Nation, if you're new to us, he is actually not Tom Brady under the disguise of Jordan Shank. He's a bit as talented and good looking as Tom Brady, but he is ours, and he is FFG's, and he is not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, but I appreciate you guys for pouring in. You did an awesome job, and just the heart and soul and who you are as people. For me to be able to know that and have that personal relationship with you guys, I just wish you could hear the sincerity in my voice out there, folks, that these folks are really some of the best human beings on the planet. And this is who we get to be in business with. This is what we do. And I just feel blessed and fortunate, and thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Spivey. Appreciate you. Well, I wanna wrap us up for this part of the call with emotions. You know, I think it's interesting, number one, for a female to be the one encouraging you to audit your emotions, and second of all, probably one of the biggest feelers out there. I am heavy on the deep feel side, and so emotions honestly are something that I've had to reckon with throughout my life, and I would say a large portion of my life I did not do this well whatsoever. I think most of my 20s and some of my early 30s, in fact, I really allowed my emotions to rule me. And so I know what kind of life that creates. I know the results that come from that. I know the impact on other people. And I know how I feel about myself when emotions really govern and run your life. And I think it's one of those really important places because emotions are so powerful. They tie so closely into our thought life, and what Jordan was saying about the neural pathways that we create, and our lives are always going to head in the direction of our strongest thoughts. And so knowing that and knowing how closely emotions and our thoughts are tied, I think that it makes sense for us to be vigilant about auditing our emotions as well. So again, if we think about what auditing is, to take a periodic and a systematic assessment of our emotions and actually look inside and ask, hey, what's going on in my heart? Like, what am I feeling? What am I experiencing right now? And having the self-awareness to do that, and then having the discipline to actually know what to do with what you find out. And instead of just acknowledging that you're feeling angry, or you're feeling stressed, or you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're feeling fear, or you're feeling elated. I mean, who knows? There's all kinds of things that you potentially could be feeling. Here's the tricky thing, is that our emotions are always valid. They are always a real thing. You cannot say to someone, if Summer is feeling afraid, just because you don't think her situation looks scary and you're not afraid, it's not okay to invalidate that feeling. If she feels afraid, it is real to her. However, our emotions are not always true. And there's a really big difference in a feeling being real to someone and in that feeling being true. And so I think that the danger is when we feel a thing and then we begin to believe that is true, instead of looking at that thing objectively and having a discussion with it if we need to, and coming to a conclusion that actually is true. But what happens when we don't audit our emotions is that we begin to live by false narratives, which is really close to what Jordan was talking about as well. Because our emotions will just kind of take hold of our life. And it could be that they govern a day, they govern an hour, they sap a whole year. In this case, like Jordan was saying, if he had continued that thought process of 2020 being a wash, then 2020 very well may have been a wash. But there's emotions behind that create that thought pattern, and his ability to take a serious look at that thought and name it, and then objectively decide whether or not he was going to allow that to remain in his brain. That's the mark of a leader. But our thoughts oftentimes are prompted by our emotions. And so it's funny, Jordan, that you said that one of the first things that you encourage people to do is to name the thought. I would argue the same thing is true with your emotions. When you're feeling overwhelmed with your emotions, there's a clarity and a power just in assigning a name to it, because no longer does it remain a part of you at that point. I'm stressed, I'm afraid, I'm overwhelmed, I'm this or I'm that. You can name it. I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling afraid, I'm feeling inadequate. Whatever the case may be, when you assign a name to it, it brings it into the spotlight, for one, and it gives you power over it instead of it having the power over you, and naming you. Because understand, that's what's happening. If I say to Summer, I'm stressed, I'm assigning that emotion to me, and it now has power over me, because it's naming me instead of me naming it. So the first thing that you do, just super practically, is to actually name the emotion, give it a name. And then I think for me, there's a couple of different things that become really helpful at that point. Number one, what am I feeling? Name it. Number two, why? Why am I feeling that? Try to understand it. Where did it come from? And then the third thing is, can I change it? And that's also a really important question. If the answer is no, well, let me start with yes. If the answer is yes, if you can change the thing that's causing you to feel stressed out, if for example, you're feeling stressed out and overwhelmed because you aren't auditing your schedule and you're not actually planning your work and working your plan, then change it. That's a really easy thing to do. If you're feeling a certain way because your thought life has gotten out of control, then practice the affirmations, do the things that Jordan was encouraging us to do. If it's because of an interaction with another person, then set aside time to go clarify and figure that out, so it's not adding to the negative feelings that you're experiencing. So if you can change it, change it. Don't be a victim to your emotions. But oftentimes we can't change it. There may be many circumstances for some of you that are way outside of your control, and you don't have the power to actually change the circumstance that feeling is coming from. And so then at that point, I think you have three options, and possibly more. This is by no means a comprehensive emotional lesson here, but I think that one of the first things that you have the option of doing is release it. Simply let it go. I think a lot of times what we do is we feel something and we kind of take it all the way in, and we identify with it, which is part of the power of naming it. But we have the ability to kind of hold our feelings out here and look at that objectively. And if it doesn't serve you, you actually are capable of letting it go, of tossing it to the side and disallowing that thing from governing your life. It takes discipline, it takes some strength, it takes intentionality, but you can do that. The second option I think you have is to process it. And maybe you need to process it before you let it go. But I remember especially when I was in the field, I went through I went through the two hardest years of my life when I was still in the field very full time. And if I was experiencing really rough emotions when I was out in the field, then that was not going to be conducive for me actually connecting with the family. And one of the things that was helpful for me was to actually time block me time, recharge time, to process some things. And so that way I knew, hey, you know what, I can make it through these 2 days in the field if I know that the next day I have an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, an afternoon set aside to really process through some of this stuff. Allow myself to feel it, take a serious look at it, maybe talk with a friend about it, somebody that can help me with it. But emotions oftentimes need to be processed through before they can be released. So potentially that's something you can do, but schedule that in. Actually be intentional about that. And then the third thing is, on a really practical level, we can exchange our emotions. You might, for example, be feeling overwhelmed because you don't feel prepared or as adequate when it comes to the virtual sales model, and that's what you need to do. But instead of feeling overwhelmed or stress around that, you can choose gratitude for that very thing. Like what Jordan was saying, it's a huge takeaway of what he was saying, the ability now to hire people we never could have hired before. Instead of feeling overwhelmed and pressure and stress from the fact that now you're selling virtually, choose to just say out loud, you know what, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be more efficient, more productive, to have more time to see more people, and I'm going to get better that way, because I know that the more reps I put in, the better I'm going to become. And just exchanging the negative emotion for gratitude, framing that however you need to, is something that's been really helpful for me. So again, those three things, if your emotions are kind of governing you first, the first thing that you need to do is identify it. What am I feeling? And put a name to it. The second thing is understand why. And the third thing is ask yourself if you can change it. And if you can, then do that thing. If you can't, figure out if you just need to let it go, if you need to release it, if you need to process it, or if you need to exchange it. And I think if we will do those things regularly, and I think auditing your emotions may be something, especially for you women, that may be something you need to do every 30 minutes. It may be something you need to do every hour. You can set a timer for yourself to remind you to just do a quick self-check, identify that stuff, clear out what doesn't serve you, and move forward. But what I do know is that as we get to the place where we're truly auditing our life, and these are just 3 areas, I'm sure you all can all think of different areas that you would be served if you perform these audits. If you choose to run your life this way, you're going to be exponentially more productive. And I think you're also going to be exponentially happier as well. You're going to be feel actually on top of your life instead of your life kind of crushing you and coming down on top of you. Summer, what you said about boundaries at the very beginning applies to all of this. We're going to reap the consequences of our lack of auditing or of our auditing. And the consequences of not doing these things does look like chaos, confusion, and many other things. But there is such power in actually taking ownership of our lives, taking personal responsibility, and just being vigilant to take inventory and make changes as we grow. So with that, I will say thank you again to Brandon, Casey, and Brian for letting us share today, and just so honored for that. And thank you, Jordan and Summer, both of you for preparing well and offering your gifts to the team. Really appreciate you. And Todd or Brandon, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you guys so much. This has been an awesome call. Anytime I can hear the great Ashley Tarr speak, it's a good day in my book. So Summer and Jordan, you just added so much value to it as well. And we'll make sure that we get some posts out there. We've got a ton of requests, Jordan and Summer, for you guys to post on Facebook, social media somewhere, the key topics that you went over, the list that you went through. So please do that if you will. And just know that we all here at the corporate office love every one of you, and we appreciate you. And it's been awesome landing on the moon with you all. And it's going to be even more epic as we get on our path to Mars with Quility. So appreciate you all. Stay tuned. We'll talk to you next week, and let's get fired up for that September-October blitz. Let's do it.